Hello and welcome back to the Marketing Chinwag. This is the channel dedicated to helping you refine your digital marketing. Oh, cut. Hang on. Small businesses. Sorry. Right. Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Marketing Chinwag. This is the channel dedicated to helping small businesses to refine their marketing and get better results. My name is Matt Thorpe from Grasshopper UK.
I'm Paul Gully from Elevated Online, and today we're looking at the importance of brand and how we see a lot of businesses and not getting it right. They've not got that identity or coherence across their company and the messages they're putting out. So there's just a few pointers on things you can do to have a coherent message and a brand identity. So exactly. First up, what we're looking at, Matt?
Well, first up, we've got kind of a mission statement. Okay, so there's a guy called Simon Sinek that which had a really kind of interesting video on YouTube, and you should definitely look at it. And it basically highlights your why you're in business. Now, it sounds a little bit fluffy, but if you are running your business and you are selling products and selling services, you ultimately should have a why you're in business, what you're there to do, rather than just making money. Because yeah, that's all very nice. Don't get me wrong; it's nice to make money, but ultimately you have to have a reason for being in business. And if you are ultimately you are there to improve your customers' lives. You're there to help them. You're there to take away problems, and your products and service should be making their life better.
Totally, yeah. Your why is ultimately the most important bit. You need to get down what your business is about, why you're doing what you're doing, and tell people that, get it across why you want to help them, why you want to solve these problems, and then go to the what you do and things like that. So before you start looking at anything else, just sit down and spend a bit of time looking at, yeah, why are we doing this? Why do we want to help? Why basically.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't have that currently lined up, just spend some time and sit down, because it makes your kind of the whole kind of brand side of things more lined up with your marketing, and your customers will get your business more. Okay, so next up we have your unique selling point, your USP. Bit of a marketing buzzword, but Paul, USPs are one of the most important things, because if you can't stand out from a crowd, then you're going to struggle, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably, I suppose, for a lot of businesses, and certainly smaller businesses, when you sit down and think about it, USP sometimes is one of the most difficult things and challenging to sit down and get it out, that this is our USP, this is why we're different, and things like that. And a lot of it comes down to the whole people by people, personality, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say look at getting your personality into the business as part of the brand, is the whole, the voice, what do we stand for, that kind of thing. And look at that as helping you structure your unique selling point. Why should people come to you?
Yeah, and you need to have that kind of nailed down as like your elevator pitch. It's like Paul and I do a lot of networking, and we've already talked about it before. And it's important that you actually, when people say, well, what do you do? What do you do? And it's not just a case of, I'm an accountant, I'm in marketing, I do this. It's like, I am a business that helps X customer solve X problem. So, you really need to refine it down and sort of say, who you help and what you actually do for them. Because if you don't have that unique selling point, you're just a kind of you're just kind of one of many. There's a really good book that if you haven't read it, you should do if you think your kind of business doesn't have a unique selling point, and that's called The Purple Cow by a guy called Seth Godin. He's like a very high profile marketing guy, but he speaks sense, and I love his work. And he basically says, if you drive past a field of cows, and they all look the same, but if you saw a purple one, you would stop and you would take note. And it's admittedly it is easier said than done to turn your business into a purple cow, but ultimately you need to think about, right, okay, what are my competitors not doing that I do best, and how can I be unique? Because like we've already said, if you kind of if you can drill down on that and create a kind of a unique angle to your business, or an interesting angle at least to make you stand out, you're going to have better results.
Yeah, and one thing I'd say, try and avoid that there's one thing I see on a lot of, especially websites, is all businesses say the same thing. So they'll say, we're passionate about helping people, blah, blah, blah. Then if you went to another website that's the same industry, chances are they've got something in their copy somewhere that says, we're passionate about you know, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. And to be honest, we had it on our old website as well, because it was because everyone's passionate about helping, but you've got to find that other thing that you can reword it or say it in a way that makes you different. So
Yeah.
it's all a lot of play on words. A lot of people, you know, ultimately everyone should be passionate about helping their customers and everything else. So kind of ditch that and go with a different angle. But yeah, so I suppose leading on from that, target audience is the next one, isn't it? Is to understand who your customers are, who you're serving, things like what are their problems and their pain points, and what things you do to help them, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things that I see a lot, you know, first thing I sort of say to people, okay, who's your target audience? Because we can't put a marketing strategy in place until we understand who your audience is and what motivates them, what they need, what their problems are, what we can solve. And a lot of businesses, they turn around and say, well, everybody's my audience. Well, that's like a bit like throwing something at a wall and hoping something sticks. You need to drill down into your niche audience and say, right, okay, what do we know about them? What drives them and motivates them? Because until you understand that, it's very difficult to sell products and services effectively, and you'll find that you'll just get a load of time wasters.
Yeah, definitely. And with everything else that you then do, once you've done the piece about working out who your target audience is, it then makes it a lot easier for your social media and your other marketing, whether it's print or advertising, things like that. You know straight away, right, we're attacking these people. Yes, they're on Instagram or whatever. So it's the whole thing sort of comes together around doing your background work on your target audience.
Yeah, and pain, you know, looking at pain factors for your audience, you know, what you know, pain you are solving. Because if you can solve pains of an audience, you're going to find it much easier to sell products rather than just having a service or a product that's nice to have, because nobody needs a nice to have. Yeah. Okay. It's very difficult. Like a lot of my business is in e-commerce. And you know, if you have a product that people really, really need and it solves a problem, it flies off the shelves. If it's something that's kind of a nice to have, a bit like, you know, watches and fashion. You know, I'm not saying it can't sell. It's a very, very tough sell though, because there's so much noise out there and you're trying to persuade somebody to like your products and the fact that they need it. But really, there's no kind of real pain factor when someone wakes up in the morning and says, oh yeah, I must need that dress. I must need that watch. It's you know, it's quite a difficult thing to do. So, okay, next up, we've got your language and tone of voice.
Yeah, ultimately, this is where the whole personality of you and your business comes in. So as well as then looking at why you do what you do and getting across that side of it, it's how are you going to get that across. And a lot of this will come from the people in the business, the personality, the ethos of the business, what you're looking to help with, that kind of thing. And ultimately from your target audience, who are you talking to, is then kind of using that as the basis of the type of language you want to put out, how you're going to structure messages, and then also the platforms help as well. Obviously, for LinkedIn, you probably wouldn't use the same tone of voice or type of post as you would put on Instagram and things like that. So it's it's ultimately you just want the business to have its tone and its voice and its personality. But as a small business, especially, that will come from yourself and the people involved, and who you're targeting. You want to identify with them and connect with them on the level that they're at.
Exactly. And you kind of, you know, with that kind of language and that tone of voice, you all have to be singing from the same hymn sheet, because you don't want inconsistencies throughout the business. You all have to be kind of, you know, talking to your customers in the same way, because otherwise it's disjointed. If your website is all like synergized and we're passionate and all the, you know, if it's quite formal, and, you know, you see it a lot in kind of like B2B services, you know, they're quite formal, and then obviously when they pick up the phone, the person you're speaking to may be completely different. So whether it's your messaging on your homepage or your product pages or whatever, it's on your LinkedIn, it's on your email as well. So when you're sending out emails to customers and when you're talking to customers, it should all be consistent, because then people actually understand that, you know, this company knows what they're doing. Okay, next up, we've got brand identity. So logo and visuals, Paul.
Yeah, obviously when people think of branding and stuff like that, the first thing you would probably think of is logo and everything else, but there's a whole setup that goes around it as well. So you've got to think of, like, first off is obviously once you've got your business name and you've thought about your USP and everything else, then the logo kind of comes off that. It needs to fit in with your ethos and the voice and everything else. Get a color scheme, so 2 or 3 strong basic colors that you want to use as your template ideas for everything you're doing, and then get the logo designed. And it's got to be something, keep it simple and memorable, that people, when they look at it, are going to go, oh yeah, that's X and stuff like that. So, and then you can use it across all your marketing. Make sure everything's coherent with the colors and the kind of look and layout ideas, and obviously your logo.
Yeah. I mean, just going back to the color side of it, I mean, before, if you are looking to redesign a logo, or even design a logo, or design your kind of whole sort of brand identity, it's worth looking at color psychology, because it's massively important. You look at certain colors like gold and black are kind of very high end luxury. You look at kind of the navy blues where they're premium, a bit like British Airways, and then you look at oranges like EasyJet, where it's more fun and perhaps energetic, the brighter colors. And then you look at green, and maybe that's more eco kind of thing. So it's worth looking at that, because if you don't get the color right, you don't just pick a color out of the air and go, do you know what, I love that color scheme. What you need to, it needs to reflect the style of business you are, and the kind of the energy and the type of, the tone of voice and the type of business you are. Because if you have like your colors that are completely wrong and it's disjointed, people are just not going to get it. And it's also worth looking at, on the visual side, photography. So if you're going to use stock photography, make sure that fits, again, your brand and fits what you believe in. Because if you have cheesy stock photography that you've purchased from a stock photography website, and it doesn't fit with your product and it doesn't fit with what you do, it's just going to be a very hard sell, because people, make up their mind visually. The quickest thing they do is look at something and say whether they like it or not, and they'll make their decision within 2 to 3 seconds. And people can leave your website, and you can have the best product or service in the world, you can have the best elevator pitch, the best spiel all over your website, but if they don't get that far to make a decision, if they just look at the visuals and go, I'm not a fan of this, they're off ski. So it's worth worth looking at the psychology of it. Yeah. Next up, we've got marketing message, and that kind of comes down to sort of language and tone of voice, but it's about getting those messages across in a punchy way, Paul, isn't it?
Yeah, try to keep it short and concise, to the point. And it's then mixing it up as well. So having a strategy and planning, again, is going to be key. As we've mentioned pretty much on everything, planning is key to everything you're doing. So you've got your tone of voice, you've got what you're about and everything else, and then it's the messages off the back of that, what problems you're solving and things like that, and it's all about connecting with the audience. So what problems have they got, and then obviously dipping into those problems and what those are and how you can help, or how your product solves it, and things like that.
Yeah, and you should, whatever messaging you put across, whether it's on your homepage or email or wherever it is, you should always come back to what your why. What do we stand for? Why are we here? And then go back to your audience and say, right, okay, is this message that we are putting out now going to resonate with your customers? Every time you should come back to it and say, right, if it's not, we shouldn't put it out. You shouldn't just churn out a load of rubbish on social media just for the sake of it. It's better to have something consistent and something that's going to, hit your audience in the right way and actually serve a purpose, as opposed to just churning out a load of rubbish. Because we see a lot of businesses, don't we, that just outsource their social media to somewhere cheap around the world. And I'm not being funny, a lot of these people are very good at what they do, but because they just want, say, business owners just want to tick a box and say, right, okay, we've done some social media, someone manages that, but there's no plan or strategy behind it, is there?
No, it's exactly. You can employ someone and they can do you nice graphics, or do you something and put a quote on it and things like that. You've got to have that underlying plan and strategy of, why are we doing this? What is the goal, and how are we connecting with people? So make sure that's all in place all the time, and keep the messages clear and simple, and just engage with people.
Yeah. And the last one, once we've got the messaging right, is obviously the marketing channels, like where we're going to push this out.
Yeah, and obviously, again, that's all part of your strategy. You work out what your messages are, and then you've got to sit down and go, where are we pushing this out? make sure the website is the first thing that's central to everything you're doing online, especially. And then pick your social media channels from there. And like I've said before, don't immediately think we've got to be on every single social media channel. This will go back to your target audience. Where are they? Depending on age ranges, might affect which platform you spend a bit more time on. But like both you and I have said previously, is maybe pick one or two that you're good at and or certainly one that really well and you enjoy, and the other one might be a bit more that's where your customers are, so you need to engage on that channel. And then obviously you've got other things like email and in-person and traditional marketing, flyers and things like that as well.
Exactly. And once you find once you find where your audience is most engaged, and bear in mind, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. But once you start to get that engagement, and it's not just about posting stuff out either. It's about actually going on and commenting and finding people and following them and linking up with them. And don't expect them to just suddenly find you, because it probably won't happen a lot of the time. You actually have to go out and leave comments and engage and get that interaction. But once you know your audience is there and they start engaging, then it's time to double down and put in a bit more effort, and you will get the results. So cool. Okay, so let's just have a little recap sort of with kind of building a brand. So the first up was your mission. So why you exist, what you stand for. Get that right. Okay, so write this down. Just don't get it in your head, because you need to write this down and make sure everybody in your business knows about it. What is your unique selling point? So Paul obviously went into detail on that one about what you actually stand for, but what is going to make you stand out in that field of Holstein cows. Your target audience, absolutely vital, because if you haven't got a target audience, you might as well be peeing in the wind, excuse my French. Your language and tone of voice, so obviously the way you conduct yourself as a business and the way you sort of write your content across your different channels, that all has to be lined up. Obviously your logo and your visuals, so your colors, your imagery, all that again has to be consistent with what your business does and what your customer expects to see. Your marketing message, so your key messages that are going out have to be consistent again, and obviously if it doesn't resonate with your customers or serve a purpose, don't do it. And then obviously finally is the marketing channels, like Paul's just alluded to. Don't try and be everywhere. Just find out where your audience is, do some market research, and then go and get them.
Yeah, and then if you follow all those points, that'll help you with your plan out ready, and you're ready to go and take on the world.
If you like this content, then make sure you give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, just give us a thumbs down and pop a comment below if you have any questions, and we will be glad to help.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you want to keep up to date and see our weekly vlogs, and then also hit the bell for the notifications. And if you want to follow more of what we're doing across our website and social media, the website is marketingchinwag.com, or you can drop us an email at hello@marketingchinwag.com.